area when they heard gunshots. He says the police members traced the gunshots to a church. The suspects face charges of discharging of a firearm in a municipal area, the possession of prohibited firearms, and the illegal possession of ammunition.
A preliminary investigation was done, and it was confirmed by the cartridges that were laying on the ground inside the church premises as the location where the shots were fired. All congregants were instructed to remain on the premises as a physical search had to be conducted. One of the passengers urgently requested to use the bathroom. He was searched and found to be in possession of a Tokarev Vector 9mm pistol, of which the serial number was removed, and one 9mm round. Another person was approached and searched, and in his sling bag was found a CZ 9mm firearm, of which the serial number was removed, with an empty cartridge.
The newly elected Botswana President Duma Boko is expected to announce his new cabinet today. He was elected the president of that country after the recently concluded elections. Speaking to the SABC in Botswana, Boko says he will speedily finalize discussions on the sale of stake in the diamond mining company De Beers. He says it's important, however, to ensure that the country strengthens its skills development program in the diamond sector.
We need to develop our skills to cutting edge, to a level where the world will come here. When they want the best cut of diamond, the best stone handled by our own people, the world should not want a Russian cut. They should want a Botswana cut. And that is a function of skills development. We need to invest more. So the issue of beneficiation is broader than just geographic location.
Recapping the top story, the chair of the Archbishop Desmond Tutu IP Trust, Dr. Mampela Rampele, has urged the government to expel Israeli diplomats from South Africa. Dr. Rampele says South Africa must use anti-apartheid tactics to implement sanctions against Israel. I am Ondelambana for SAFM News. Headlines at 1:30.
South Africa and India will produce hot performances as they both want to triumph during their third T20 contest. The visitors want victory to ensure a joyful tour, but hosts Mzansi refuse to fold their arms. What a summer without cricket! Catch the heated third T20 international action between South Africa and India on Wednesday, 13 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000. With reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom. Reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
No malajani jani wami egendukshiye so fast jani no malajani jani wami egendukshiye so fast jani no malajani jani wami egendukshiye Nina ondenza yona Ngadivuke kuseni ndinqumile ngenxa yothando lwakho Nadiyo yikukubuza nesi sakho mhlawumbe siyazalana oh njalo muntu labo mphethe ngayo isolo isithathile isigqibo akanjani noma kanjani wami noma kanjani so fast kanjani noma kanjani kanjani wami what so fast kanjani noma kanjani kanjani wami so fast kanjani noma kanjani kanjani wami so fast kanjani ingaske izona undideli nawe ingaske ungahamba ubuyele ekhaya ingaske ubusuku bungadluli ongondisibambile isandla sakho ungowami ngowakho dani wami ndifuna wena eceleni kwam indlela undiphethe ngayo izolo ndisithathile isigqibo ungowami noma kanjani dani wami so fast kanjani noma kanjani dani wami angeke ndikushiye so fast kanjani dani wami dani wami so fast kanjani angeke dani wami so fast kanjani ungowami ngowakho dani wami ndifuna wena eceleni kwam labo mphethe ngayo izolo ndisithathile isigqibo akanjani noma kanjani dani wami angeke ndikushiye wedwa dani wami so fast kanjani noma kanjani dani wami andifuna ukuba lutho ngawe dani wami ungowami so fast kanjani
Nati featuring Vusinova on this one with Noma Ganjani, with the crooners doing the absolute best on the vocals there. Hey, how was your weekend? Hopefully you got the rest that you so richly deserve, and if not, it's A-OK. We'll make it through. We're in the final stretch now as we prepare to wrap up 2024. Lots to get through today. We're looking at a conversation around a crippling barrier to local and global youth employability, and that is a conversation around potentially how do we tackle, this conversation around funding and finance for tertiary graduates. So we're going to have that conversation now, looking at that. And I think it's not just something that plagues us as South Africans, but it's something that speaks to a global phenomenon. Kids, families alike are paying an arm and a leg for tertiary education. And sometimes those financial constraints then come back to hamper you. When you try or attempt to begin the rest of your life post graduation. So we're going to have that conversation, and then we're going to look at a program that SANRail is initiating, and this is a program that's targeting specifically black-owned businesses in construction. We'll find out more from them about what that all entails. We're also going to have another conversation focused on youth entrepreneurs and how to better plug in for this generation so that they can actually build more sustainable businesses. That's just what's coming up in the first hour. And then on the other side of 2 o'clock, we take a look at a professional conversation, how to face your fears and land the compensation that you deserve. I'll also let you know what else is coming up on the other side of 2, closer to that time. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. It is The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Only the team that plays the best cricket on the day will enjoy the last laugh. South Africa and India are both hungry to wrap the T20 International Series on the highest possible note. What a summer without cricket! Do not miss out on the fourth and final T20 International battle between South Africa and India on Friday, 15 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000 with reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
All right, we are in conversation now with Dumsani Sibanda, Executive Head of Strategic Project for Fundi, and we're having this conversation around youth employability. So South Africa's crippling youth unemployment rate is just over 60%, and of course it remains one of the country's most pervasive and unshifting challenges. While many final year tertiary students are already starting to look for jobs for 2025 to ensure security for themselves, employment security, some, Dumsani says, might not even qualify for these positions because of the outstanding balances that they owe to their education institution. So we thought we'd explore this conversation and maybe delve into potentially unpacking, some methods that could work in curbing this situation. Dumsani joins us now on the phone. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you, Bridget, for having me, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you so much for the time. Much appreciated. So in your piece, you look at the role that educational debt plays in exacerbating youth unemployment, particularly for graduates. Let's explore that a little bit, because what kind of problems, rather, does this potentially cause for young graduates?
Thank you for your question. So to begin with, let me quote some numbers. This year alone, an estimated 120,000 to 150,000 students won't graduate because of outstanding balances. So yes, they'll qualify, they'll finish their exams, and the exams will be withheld by the institution because they've not finished paying off the fees, and they need that qualification to enter the job market. That's the first problem that we have. And then what that does, it means that they can't get into the workplace so that they can start earning money to repay the institution. And there's no mechanism that is officially put in place or is in a framework or policy that helps that. That's number one. And number two, there's also a skills mismatch to say, even though they graduate, while they have outstanding balances and fees that need to be paid, they might pay those fees, but there's no guaranteed entry into the workplace because you find that universities are churning out theoretically trained people who are not necessarily ready for the workplace, and that's another gap that we have in the country.
I mean, this is not something that's uniquely South African, right? This is a problem or a trend that we're seeing globally when it comes to the issue of outstanding balances.
Absolutely. Number one and number two will be the UK and the US, where student debt, we are talking about 1.7 trillion in the US. And in South Africa, if we look at the universities alone, we're talking about 17 to 22 billion. That's the estimated value. So you can see that it's worse elsewhere. Yes.
Talk to us, around the sort of final year students' inability to secure employment because of these unpaid fees. What sort of practical solutions do you then see for addressing the issue, both at an institutional level as well as a policy level? Because as you've just mentioned, there's no policy or mechanism that's in place currently to address, this kind of problem.
Yeah, I mean, allow me to borrow from a country which I think has got something that works, from which you can borrow from. Germany. Germany uses the apprenticeship model where basically you do some theory in the institution and you have to go out to industry to practice a little bit before you can get the qualification. So we call that work integrated learning. And I think if we're to implement something like that, which was the idea with vocational training and the TVETs, I think we'll be having a winning formula. So what happens is that institutions have relationships with industry, and so there is training based on needs out there. At the moment, there is that disjoint, and there's that disjoint connection, and that's where our first problem comes from. So I think if we can look at that from a policy level, where government facilitates public-private partnerships, and we have something like that, then you find that we'll probably have institutions that are producing targeted skills that are guaranteed for take-up. I think that's the first one that we can look at. Yeah.
And would that be... Sorry, continue.
So there are pockets of excellence here and there. I'll quote, for instance, the TUT, China University of Technology. They've got an entrepreneurship hub. Not so much is said about it, but they train entrepreneurs, and they don't produce graduates only. They produce entrepreneurs. And I think we sort of need to have something like that at our institutions. And I think if you also look at the qualification, a typical bachelor's degree is 3 years of theory only. How about making it 4 years, where it's 2 years of theory, 1 year of practical experience, and then you do the last one where you now consummate the two? I think if we're to restructure our education system by making those small tweaks, it will actually help a great deal. And the concept of entrepreneurship, if you look, we were attending a conference a month ago organized by Universities South Africa. It's a body which embodies all the 26 universities. And one of the universities was saying on their website, one question they get the most is that, am I guaranteed of employment when I finish my degree? And you can see the mindset is employment. No one is looking at creating jobs as in like entrepreneurship. And I think we sort of have to have a paradigm shift even from the way we train.
Tell me this, Dumsani. I mean, given the examples that you've just placed on the table, what would be the challenge, I guess, in us as SA then borrowing from some of these examples, implementing similar policy and programs within the context of SA? Do you foresee any challenges or things that perhaps might be put forward as a negative around restructuring our education?
Absolutely. I would dare say that we need trust between government and corporate, and for that kind of thing to work. And how do we mitigate such a thing? By running pilot projects. I mean, I do believe that there are corporates which are doing well, which have got good relations with government. We can start with those ones and run pilot projects. And we see this working with the bursaries, for instance. If I used to use the bursary example, there are corporates like banks and financial institution organization, and maybe mines even. They give bursaries but the graduate has to work back the time at the organization. That's a winning formula that is already working, and I think it just needs to be protected and ring-fenced with policy and political will.
Yeah. In sort of your view, when we look at reforms in tertiary funding models, is there room there perhaps for more expanded bursary opportunities, maybe even to just relook at the restructuring of repayment structures for students?
Yes, I think so. If I were to give you an easy one, Bridget, and I think you'll agree with me on this one. Look, government has got an oversight of everyone. When they are born, they've got their birth certificate. When they write matric, they've got their results.
Yeah.
When they enroll at university, they can ask for submission of results. And once they start working, they have a tax number. SARS begins to track that this person has got an income. So the government has got all the data points to actually oversee this whole problem and be at the lead of this. And they can partner with corporates to say, we will need such a thing to happen. We'll supply you with access to data, and you begin to deduct if it's a financial institution once the student works. And so now they can easily come up with a prime minus. I mean, when I say prime minus, they can offer student loans which are charged at half the price of what the corporate financial institutions are offering. They've got all that they need to make such a thing happen. And I think that will be first prize, and it will really relieve a lot of families, because you find that when you get the loan, the first issue that you encounter is that the interest rates are high. If we look at prime, it's sitting at 11.5% at the moment, and nothing stops government from offering 2% loans or 3% loans. They can also incentivize that to say, if you perform, maybe there's a waiver or tax benefits or discounts or things like that. I mean, it's all up to the formulation of the modality of how that such a thing is rolled out. But I think such a thing would relieve the burden in a great way.
Now, we know that in the U.S., right, in recent years, we've kind of seen from our vantage point that the conversation around student debt has increasingly sharpened not only just voter behavior, that side, but also, I guess, to some degree, whether or not the cohort that is particularly affected by student debt are actually participating in the political process of the country. And top of the list for them is this conversation around this $1 trillion student debt. Is there a way for South African students and those within the higher education space to start proactively galvanizing and campaigning towards a singular message when it comes to tertiary debt?
I think so, Bridget, and I'll tell you why I think so. Look, the university student is your future leader, and what better way to empower them than to make sure that they make it over or they cross the line into corporate and they are set. And whoever makes that happen definitely has their vote. So while it can be used as a political instrument, it's also an opportunity to empower the youth. And we can't quite be sitting and having a conversation around graduate unemployment, yet we're not empowering or enabling the relief thereof. So I think it's a big opportunity for government, for leaders across the board to have conversations and see how they can empower this future leader, because at the end of the day, that's your decision maker, and that's your voting populace as well. So I think it's an important cohort.
Yeah. What lessons do we take from the approaches that have been deployed by other countries that face a similar problem, where perhaps there is a direct correlation between the high youth unemployment rates or sluggish youth unemployment rates, because I think no one can compare to our unemployment rates of youth, but also facing similar challenges, facing this sort of rising student historical death, looking at the inability to pay it off or to deal with it. Are there lessons that we can walk away with?
I think the first one is work integrated learning, like I quoted earlier, to have our institutions of higher learning directly feeding the needed skills into industry. I'll pause for a moment to expound on that. For example, at this conference I quoted a moment ago by University of South Africa, one delegate was saying in their conversations with corporate, the corporates are giving a similar message which says, give us useful graduates. So if we were to fix the skills mismatch, I think that's the first thing that we can do to win. And secondly, if we can actually have institutions that are feeding directly to the skills that are short, that will be a second win. Thirdly, I think we need to actually acknowledge that the fact that we're a connected world, you find that there are some countries like India and some in Asia where there are people actually working remotely for South African companies. And the lesson there is that the competition is not just locally, it's global. And so we need to sort of like pull up our game a little bit to empower and protect our people from such a thing happening. And when I say protect, I'm not saying we don't want the skills from outside, but we equally want our people to be as competitive such that for a corporate to hire locally or outside the country, it shouldn't make so much of a difference as far as skills is concerned. I think that's one big thing that we can take out of that as well.
Yeah, you definitely have given us a lot to ponder on when it comes to this conversation. Dumsani Sibande, thank you so much for your time. The Executive Head Strategic Project for Fundi. It is 1:30. Ondela is standing by with the headline news.
Thank you. News headlines at 1:30 on SAFM. I am on Delamban and a very good day. Electricity Minister Josienzo Ramakgopa and the Joburg Mayor Dada Morero say they have appointed a mediator to help resolve the city's electricity debt to Eskom. The chair of the Archbishop Desmond Tutu IP Trust, Dr. Mampele Rampele, has urged the government to expel Israeli diplomats from South Africa, and victims of one of the world's most prolific online child abusers are encouraging more people to report internet sex crimes. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, we are catching up with Senrel's Chief Corporate Affairs Officer now, Lihlohonolo Memeza, and the South African National Roads Agency has urged small to medium-sized black-owned construction companies to take advantage of its new contractor development program. And Lihlohonolo is going to tell us more about what that program entails. How are you doing this afternoon? Lihlohonolo? Oh, we are still trying to get him on the line. I think something happened there with a bit of a disconnection. But our lines of communications are open for you, though, if you want to be in contact with us during the course of today on 061 410 4107, 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on. Hopefully, we will get Lihlohonolo on that line ASAP so that we can have this conversation around this. It seems like it's a great opportunity for you if you are in the construction space. Also targeting very specific grades within the space, so 5 CE to 9 CE, but we'll find out exactly what that all entails. And then we're also looking to have a conversation today around empowering youth entrepreneurs to build the next generation of unstoppable businesses. I can almost tell you what's coming up for the rest of the day on the station outside of this show, where we take a little bit of a break from all the political action that's happening in the country right now. But having woken up this morning and seeing that my television sets across all the major news networks has virtually been green throughout, I get the feeling that we're going to carry much of that conversation as well, particularly a bit later on in the show, where we look at those developing dynamics at MKP. But you know us, we like to take the pressure off you from what's happening by way of the political arena and focus you on other things for just a few hours, give you a little bit of a breather of equal importance, of course, and we're hoping to do that. Let's take a quick pause and then we'll come right back.
SAFM commemorates Disability Rights Awareness Month under the theme Celebrating 30 Years of Democracy, Creating a Disability Inclusive Society for a Better Quality of Life and the protection of the rights of persons with disabilities. SAFM supports and works tirelessly towards equity and equality for those living with disabilities. Empowerment is key. Let us break the barriers and improve the quality of life for those living with disabilities. Our tireless efforts towards a better life for those living with disabilities can only be impactful when we do so together. We do not tolerate any kind of discrimination. Disability Awareness Month 2024, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Disability Rights Awareness Month on SAFM.
South Africa and India will produce hot performances as they both want to triumph during their third T20 contest. The visitors want victory to ensure a joyful tour, but hosts Mzansi refuse to fold their arms. What a summer without cricket! Catch the heated third T20 international action between South Africa and India on Wednesday 13 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000. With reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom. Reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, as we try to jig some things around from our end, this is the beauty of doing live radio. So we're going to bank some of the conversations in the first hour. We're going to catch up with Dr. Miranda Muloto, who's the head of the rehabilitation program at RMA, the Rand Mutual Assurance. And as we are in full steam of Disability Month now in November, Rand Mutual Assurance is highlighting its rehabilitation program, which they say is an important initiative that is making a tangible difference in the lives of insured workers across South Africa. But we thought Dr. Miranda will be well placed to help us understand. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Bridget. I'm very well, thank you. And how are you? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can. I'm great. Thank you so much for taking the time. Much appreciated. I guess, firstly, let's get an understanding of, Rand Mutual Assurance and the vested interest in the conversation around disability.
Mm-hmm. So Rand Mutual Assurance is a mutual social insurer that has been compensating injured workers for 130 years. And this is under the auspice and legislated under the Compensation of Occupational Injuries and Diseases. So we've been compensating and administering claims for many, many years. However, this Compensation Act has been changed and amended, and there has been an inclusion of a new Chapter 70A that has got a regulation for rehabilitation, return to work, and reintegration, which has brought a new mandate to what we do at Rand Mutual Assurance. We are going to be expected to go beyond just compensating a miner or a metal worker that has become injured. And we are supposed to make sure that they have got services, medical devices, and whatever service that promotes their return to work or reintegration to their families and communities. So the rehabilitation program really comes on the briefing or on the mandate of this amended act. So we launched a pilot of rehab last July 2023, just to test, get ready for the regulation on what are the things that really are required for us to do reintegration and to vocationally rehabilitate an injured worker. That's where it comes from.
Okay. Talk to us, Dr. Miranda, around, perhaps the things that we might not be aware of that are nuanced to a high-risk sector such as mining, for instance, and talk to us what kind of considerations then would the RMA's rehabilitation program seek to address?
Yeah. So, we all know how hazardous working in our workplaces it is. But a mining accident doesn't give you just a small injury. In most cases, it leaves most workers with a life-altering disability, which then means this person might necessarily never be able to go back to their original place of work. And if it was an underground miner, definitely not amenable to go underground. And most times, it is so life-changing that getting back into the mining environment is firstly hazardous and just not possible once you have a spinal cord injury or you have got an amputation of a limb, upper limb, lower limb, or even both. We have some who have that. So rehabilitation comes with three, or it is anchored by three pillars. It's easy to understand that you will be in hospital, you will be treated for your wounds, and it's easy sometimes when people see that, they've been given a wheelchair or an artificial limb. But rehabilitation doesn't end there. When you have to go back home, you have to be reintegrated, you have to re-enter your heart back in the village with a wheelchair. How are you going to do that? How do you dignify the person to have a bath, for instance, and how do they conduct themselves for activities of daily living? Can they prepare their own meal? Can they transfer themselves out of the wheelchair to get to use the bathroom? Simple things like that. They sound simple, but it is what rehabilitation is about. What happens to you after the formal healthcare sector, and it's very organized in hospitals. The chaos is caused when you are trying to get the person to get back home, and they still have a family to feed, and this family has to almost be reintegrated with this person who is now differently abled. So rehabilitation program is really about that. How do we give you back your dignity? How do we reintegrate you back to society? Can you become economically active again? And that means vocationally reskilling you, giving you some sort of a new career to go to, rather than depend solely on the pension that you get as a result of your disability.
Yeah. You also highlight, Doc, that the program has had great highlights in its impact towards family and community. And I guess that speaks to what you were talking about just now around just the 180 approach of the rehabilitation program.
It is. We've had lots of highlights as well as a lot of lowlights, and not because from lack of trying, So the South African landscape, disability landscape, is so difficult. It is fragmented. What happens is, in an organized setting in a hospital, we can teach you how to walk with your new artificial limbs. But necessarily, that means taking your next step, as in, even if you were to find a new job. Our public transport system is not geared for people with disabilities. Our workplaces, not geared for disabilities. So it requires a lot of effort from ourselves as a funder, from an employer that's trying to accommodate you. But you can imagine now the public transport system has to cater for this person who can run to the bus, run to a taxi, They have to walk a certain way. They need a certain amount of space in the aeroplane or in the taxi that they are sitting in. So there's a lot of reiteration that we have to look at as we help people to reintegrate. But some of the highlights that we've had, for instance, I'm just going to take this example of a gentleman who had a head injury and he ended up blind. We find him 6 years later. All he does is just sit at home. But by partnering with one of the NPOs in South Africa that does orientation and mobility, he has been trained and re-empowered to be able to travel independently, prepare his own meals, blind as he is, manages his own clothing without relying on his wife. His excitement at being able to switch on the TV and listen to a soccer match is just immeasurable. And this makes him ready to re-enter a workforce. There is potentially a lot of things that a blind person who has been retrained, reoriented, and given some mobility, they can do certain jobs that we are not even thinking about, and they can work remotely. They can be given digital skills. So there is a lot of things that we are seeing and that are opening up as a result of our pilot rehabilitation program.
Yeah, sounds like an incredible program, Dr. Miranda, and we wish you the very best as hopefully it comes out of a pilot and gets mainstreamed within the sector. That was Dr. Miranda Moloto, who's the head of the rehabilitation program at the Rand Mutual Insurance. It's just gone 1:45. We're going to take a quick pause and then we come right back.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply. SAFM, leading the conversation.
All right, let's quickly catch up with the South African National Roads Agency, who've urged small to medium-sized black-owned construction companies to take advantage of their new contractor development program. Lihlohonolo Memeza joins me now, who's Senrol's Chief Corporate Affairs Officer. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great, Bridget. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Okay, give us some context on the contractor development program.
Okay, the contractor development program that Sandro will start rolling out is a program that we saw it fit to implement at Sandro. So the CIDB came up with this program, and they've got proper guidelines and standards that we need to adhere to. So we identified there's a gap that in the construction industry, that construction companies which have been graded level 5 CE up to level 7, they tend not to get frequent contracts, especially at Sunrock. So, and the reason that they are not getting contracts, that what we identify is that legally the construction companies which are grade 8 and 9, the B contractors, they are not precluded from participating at this lower grade. So when we advertise a tender or a package of grade 5 CE to 7 CE, those bigger grades can participate, and obviously they can afford to tender at the lower rates. So we're creating an environment that will be conducive to provide necessary support to these black contractors to be able to get opportunities to work on Sunroll projects. But what we've seen as well is that the recently upgraded grade 8 and 9, because you can quickly be upgraded to grade 9 from one project work that you've done, and you become grade 9 overnight. And you're expected to participate or maybe to compete with the grade 9s who've been in business for more than 20 years.
Yeah.
And obviously, these big companies, the construction companies, big companies that have been in existence for so long, they over time own the entire value chain. So you can't expect a recently black construction company, grade 9, to compete with them. And when we've seen the opportunity to roll this out, and this is to accelerate transformation in the construction industry and give them opportunity to participate in this program. And we want people who will be committed and determined to improve and work on their performance and up their performance when they leave the program, that they are sustainable.
So, Litlhogonolo, what are we plugging into, in as far as this program is concerned? What kind of practical or tangible sort of shortfalls are you looking at addressing with the various category of company that you've mentioned?
Obviously, given the opportunities that you will get when you participate or when you participate in this program, is to firstly to get opportunity to work on contracts with Sunroll, because some of them have limited, if any, exposure to Sunroll projects as a state-owned entity to start with. And everybody knows the standard that Sunroll adheres to when coming to our roads. If you look at the national road network, we adhere to FIDIC standards, we adhere to COTA standards, and they will get exposure to build or to be involved in a project of that standard. And that obviously will give them opportunity to improve on their performance, on the quality of work that they do. And obviously, when they start the program, we'll do proper assessment to identify where the gaps are in terms of financially, where are they in terms of business management skills, in terms of expertise that they have on their team, so that at the end of the program, we can be able to say we've closed these gaps and these gaps and these gaps. Okay. We're leaving you more sustainable. So now you can go out there, and even on Sunroll project, you can now start to compete fairly because you've been given at least maximum 5 years to participate in this program.
Let's quickly just recap the selection process for those that might be applicable for the program. What does that look like?
So the criteria. The criteria, obviously, you have to be 100% black owned, because we intentional in when we say 100% black owned, because if you look at these big construction companies, majority of them, or at least at Sunroll, they are majority black owned, but we don't see the economic benefits flowing to these majority black owners of these companies. So we want 100% black owned companies. We want women owned, youth owned, companies owned by military veterans, people with disabilities. And we want companies which have been in existence for at least 5 to 10 years as minimum. And obviously, if more, great. But the reason that we're giving those number of years of experience is because we don't want companies to be formed just as a front to come and participate in this program. So we want companies which have been in existence. And obviously, they have to be between grade 5 to 7 and recently upgraded grade 8 and 9. Awesome. And obviously, with limited exposure or experience at the national level, like a state-owned entity like Sunroll. And we're looking into entities which have successfully completed or executed projects within their CIDB grading in the last 3 years. But what we picked up from the ground is that some of these companies, because once you upgraded at CIDB, you will not lose your grading. So you find that they haven't had exposure or experience for the past 3 years because of COVID or limited exposure with other roads authorities or even with Sunroll. So we're looking into how can we be able to accommodate those anomalies. And obviously they have to be a good
We
with
have to
building
leave
a
it
farm.
there for this afternoon. But Lihlohonolo, thank you so much for the time. That was Lihlohonolo Memeza, who is Central's Chief Corporate Affairs Officer. So here's an opportunity for you to partake in the program if you fit those criteria. Let's take a quick pause. We come back. Our next guest is already standing by.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Catching up now with Program Manager, Business Incubation at Fatula. I'm hoping that I didn't get my tongue in a twist there. Boitumelo Sedumedi is joining me now, and we're looking at a empowering youth program specifically targeting youth entrepreneurs in the hopes of helping them build the next generation of unstoppable businesses. How are you doing, Boitumelo?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Is it Fatula?
Yes, Fetula.
Fatula, all right. Give us some context, actually, around the organization Fatula.
Yeah, so thank you so much. So as you said, my name is Bitumelo Sidumedi, and I am one of the program managers at Fetola, and we are business development specialists. So what we basically do is really focus our passion and just the knowledge that we have in the business development space to help entrepreneurs build businesses that are long lasting. And so we've been around for almost 20 years running different acceleration programs that take in, different businesses that are in different industries and really help them walk the journey of building businesses that are sustainable and that are long lasting. Yeah.
So we know that we obviously are plagued with a crisis right now. Around 46% or so of people aged 15 to 24 are without work in SA, and there's been a whole conversation around maybe building more entrepreneurs as just a catalyst for job creation. Tell us how this accelerator then plugs into that conversation and the kind of resource and opportunity it provides for young entrepreneurs who are already in business, perhaps, and those who are wanting to get into various sectors.
Yeah, no, that's correct. So Fetola, in partnership with FNB, designed a youth entrepreneurship program called the FNB Youth Startup Accelerator, which is a 12-month business development program that was really designed to support and empower youth entrepreneurs to reach their fullest potential. And the program helps them to start and grow successful businesses. We work with a total of 100 young people in every cohort, and the program provides the youth entrepreneurs that come into the program with fundamental business development knowledge and support that really helps them to turn their business ideas into a reality, and also while solidifying their business models. So we really believe that a thriving small business can be the backbone of a growing society, and it can be used as a tool for the growth, of the country's economy. And so with the practical development, business development support that the program offers, we help the young entrepreneurs to build sustainable businesses that will one day employ many other people.
Yeah. By way of, just the sort of the resource, with a program like this, was it designed sort of in consultation with youth entrepreneurs so that you're able to speak to their unique challenges and the ways that they want resources plugged in?
Yes, no, that's absolutely correct. As I mentioned in the beginning, we have been in the business development space for quite some time, and we've worked with hundreds of youth entrepreneurs. And with that, we've come to notice, some of the challenges that youth entrepreneurs face. And some of those challenges really is access to mentorship and just access to people, a community of like-minded people that these entrepreneurs can work with, because you find that many times the journey of entrepreneurship is one that's very lonely, and many people do not know. They have these brilliant ideas and they have these brilliant plans of building businesses, but there's no access to the right people that can work with them, and they don't have access to the right knowledge. And so we come in to bridge that gap, and this is one of our focus in the program, which is access to peer networks and access to mentorship. We pair the participants that are in the program with industry experts, industry mentors, and peer networks where they're able to walk the journey with people who are in the same, journey with them, and people who can give them the right knowledge and the resources. We also provide things like, seed funding for them to go and test out their business ideas in market, which is also one of the issues that youth entrepreneurs face. They struggle in accessing things like your funding to build their businesses and test out their business ideas in market.
For anybody that might have an interest, as we wrap it up, just give us some quick footnotes of what they need to consider by way of criteria of qualification, and also where they go to get more information.
Yes, so the FNB Youth Startup Accelerator is a youth entrepreneurship program. So we particularly work with people between the ages of 18 to 35 years old. And then you can apply to the program if you just have a business idea, or if your business has been operating between 0 to 6 months. So we work with people who are at ideation phase, or even very early stage startup businesses. And so you, as I mentioned, have to be youth, you have to be a South African citizen, and your business has to be operating within the borders of the country. And if you are in operation already, you should be turning over less than R1 million annually in annual turnover. And if you're interested to apply into the program, please visit our website, Fetola's website at www.fetola.co.za, or you can even check us out on our social media platforms, your Instagram, your Facebook, and TikTok. There's information about the program on there, more information on the criteria of the program and what the program offers. Sure. And when you do get onto the website, please do take a moment to just read through the qualifying criteria before you apply. And just lastly, for those who are interested again, and if you've started an application already, you can WhatsApp us on 066 141 6627 or 066 320 6241.
Sure. Boitumelo, I have to wrap it there now. Unfortunately, we have to cut to the news. That was Boitumelo Sedumeri, but I'm sure you got the gist of the contact details for you. Ondela is standing by with the news.
Thank you, Bridget. Top stories at 2. Plans to resolve Joburg's electricity crisis, and level 4 weather warning remains in place in KZN. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good day. Electricity Minister Hosiantura Mahupa and the Joburg Mayor Dada Morero say they have appointed a mediator to help resolve the city's electricity debt to Eskom. This follows a meeting held between the City of Johannesburg Power Utility, City Power, Eskom, and the Minister of Electricity this morning. The meeting comes after Eskom announced that they will implement power supply disruption in the city due to City Power being 4.9 billion rand in arrears. The meeting has resolved to acquire independent intervention and will have 14 days to report back. Ramachupa says they expect to receive feedback from the technical expert by the 25th of this month.
We have accepted that technically we can get that confirmation in the next 14 days. So what will happen is that on the 25th of November, the technical expert will come back to myself, the executive mayor, and both teams from Eskom and City Power to say to us that this is the true facts of the situation. And on the basis of what the technical expert will have determined.
The city of Johannesburg has conceded that the Lilian Ngoyi Road rehabilitation project, which was expected to conclude its first phase next month, will not meet the previously set deadline. The road sustained significant damage from a methane gas explosion in July last year, which also caused substantial damage to nearby streets. City of Joburg's MMC for Transport, Kenny Kunene, says only 22% of the work has been done, with only 19 million rand of the money budgeted for the repairs used. Kunene says the delays were due to the Johannesburg Roads Agency terminating its contract with the contractor, Step Up Engineering, which led to a subsequent lawsuit. He says a settlement between the parties is expected sometime today.
You cannot appoint a contractor at this point in time because then the lawsuit might change. But we've been working very hard to make sure that we resolve that so that the project starts. So the project will start probably this week or next week. There has been talk in meetings with the officials that they would also try to get the contractor to work on weekends, sometimes do double shifts. So there are those interventions that the team is working around so that when they appoint the contractor, they include those as part of the contract.
The chair of the Archbishop Desmond Tutu IP Trust, Dr. Mampela Rampele, has urged the government to expel Israeli diplomats from South Africa. Dr. Rampele says South Africa must use anti-apartheid tactics to implement sanctions against Israel. She says government must use the parliamentary resolution passed a year ago to cut diplomatic ties and draw on its experience of the past sanctions and boycotts to achieve equal rights. Rampele says it is not only Palestine that is under attack, but the integrity of the rest of the world to correct human-made crisis.
Thousands of women and children being killed in Palestine. Goal of the state of Israel is clear: to get rid of every Palestinian so they can grab Palestine for themselves. This is an outrage. The world has to rise to its responsibilities.
The South African Weather Services says the level 4 warning for severe thunderstorms and heavy rains remains in place in some parts of KwaZulu-Natal. Residents are advised to exercise caution due to potential thunderstorms, heavy rains and hail. Weather forecaster Ayanda Ntsele says residents can expect a continuation of the weekend rains.
Today over the province we are still expecting 60% chance of rain during the day. It's still raining in most places, and then we still have an alert for severe thunderstorms this afternoon over the western parts. That alert is a yellow level 4 alert, and it will mainly affect Uthugela, Amajuba, Herikwala, Umgungunjovu, as well as the most northern western parts of Mzinyati. We are expecting heavy downpours with that, small amounts of hail.
Victims of one of the world's most prolific online child abusers are encouraging more people to report internet sex crimes. Alexander McCartney was sentenced to life in prison in Britain last month. The BBC's Chris Page has more on this.
Police estimate that Alexander McCartney targeted 3,500 children over 5 years. He pretended to be a teenage girl online and tricked his victims into sending him explicit photos of themselves. McCartney then threatened to post the pictures publicly unless they carried out acts of abuse. A 12-year-old girl from the US took her own life after being blackmailed. Other victims have now spoken in the hope it'll help others. One said she was glad she reported the abuse to police, and other young people should come forward if something similar was happening to them, saying you truly never know the magnitude of the situation you're dealing with.
Recapping the top story, Electricity Minister Josiantura Mahupa and the Joburg Mayor Danda Morero say they have appointed a mediator to help resolve the city's electricity debt to Eskom. I am Ondalambana for SAFM News. Headlines at 2:30.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture, delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom. Reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
It is Jonathan Butler coming through with Wake Up. We thought we'd play you a beautiful, nostalgic classic there in the second half of the show. It's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock. By the way, I'm very curious about this briefing that's currently underway addressing Joburg's water woes, because we have been on level 1, level 2 restrictions for a good 2 months now. But no one is adhering to that. There's been some guidelines as to how we consume water, when we should be consuming, the amounts we should be consuming, and it seems as though we are just not adhering to that at all. And I'm led to believe that probably what was up on the table was them articulating the problem as to where it stands right now, but also the interventions that are going to be put in place, particularly for us in Gauteng, because I did hear a very stern Premier Banyaza Lesufi this morning talking around our consumption as citizens of this great province is literally about 3 times more than what we should be consuming. So we are the biggest part of this water crisis problem, over and above the failing infrastructure and some of the challenges that they are facing as well, just in keeping the taps flowing. But we seem to be the biggest challenge to this conversation. So just, putting it out there so that you and your household can conserve water or use water in a far more conservative way. And I think he did hint to water restrictions across the province. So I think they'll be implementing some kind of water shedding now, not just suggesting it, but actually physically switching off our pipes for a number of hours during the course of the day because we failed to listen. But anyway, my next conversation now, we're looking at a money conversation and how to face your fears and land the conversation that, or rather land the compensation that you deserve. We're catching up with the Africa MD at Jackhammer Global, and they are Africa's largest executive search firm. Advata Naidu joins me on the line. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm very well, thanks, Bridget. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. This is a conversation I think that induces, quite a bit of anxiety when one has to go in as an employee and motivate for either salary increase or maybe improved compensation packages. It's something that really gets the nerves up and standing.
Understandably so. I think corporate culture tends to be quite hierarchical, especially South African corporate culture, and salary discussions feel challenging. Talking about money is almost the last taboo when it comes to the workplace. As a professional society, we're all getting more comfortable talking about work-life balance or hybrid versus remote or diversity and inclusion, but there is still something so uncomfortable about talking about money because as a society, we've really been socialized into thinking that it's unrefined to discuss.
And oftentimes, not only just unrefined to discuss, but it also speaks to our inability to self-advocate, and particularly in these professional spaces.
Yes, I think there is a part of us that's tying our value to how we're compensated, and that's probably something that needs to be unpacked a little bit more. But yes, self-advocacy really is a part of the challenge where I know there's a lot of research done on, you'd be able to motivate for someone else, but then when we talk about ourselves, it gets more and more difficult because, again, as a society, we are socialized not to self-aggrandize, and then when we tie that to money, it becomes a problem. But I really think the first step in having the conversation is demystifying the idea of money, really taking the pressure off the conversation. We do want to be paid for what's there, for what we bring to the table. We want the opportunity to improve our life situation through wealth creation, and there's absolutely no shame in that. It's easier said than done to actually have that conversation. It does require courage, but I think the most important point is that when we remove the emotion from the conversation and also divorce ourselves from the outcomes, it may be easier to have the discussion without getting tied up in knots.
Yeah, and we're going to double to the points you just made about removing emotions from the conversation and not being tied to the outcome, because some might say, well, if I'm going to master all the courage that I have to go and have this conversation, I am hoping not only is it emotive, because I have to sit there and motivate for my value, and I have to sit there and let someone else see why I'm of benefit to their organization, or why I'm asking for what I'm asking, and so that speaks to emotion, but also not being tied to the outcome is difficult when one really requires the outcome to be favorable.
It really does. And the thing is, when we're saying divorce yourself from the outcome, it doesn't mean, just go in completely clinically, although the process of having the discussion may need to be clinical. But I think if you have a list of scenarios that are going to play out, if you anticipate what somebody is going to say in response, you can prepare yourself to respond in a very factual and commercial way rather than getting emotional about it. And if you decide, well, if I'm not going to get the increase that I desire and I'm going to move on, then that's also an outcome, and that's a way of removing yourself and not making rash and hasty and emotion-fueled decisions.
I like that, what you just said about preparing yourself perhaps for the potential response or reaction, and what your counter to that would be, right? Being factual about what you present. Because then it speaks to the question of how does one go into these conversations armed, ready, and prepared?
Okay, so I think there's probably two parts of preparation that you can do. The first is understanding your own value in and of itself within an organization, because you need to have evidence that you have contributed to the extent that you deserve a salary increase. And being proactive suggests that you are more engaged, and part of your preparation needs to be talking about your contributions without falling foul of recency bias and overemphasizing one or two key achievements. Make sure you have a full portfolio of work to discuss, and don't wait too long or talk about one isolated project, because that's really going to create a disconnect between your contribution and your pay. Talk about a holistic portfolio to justify why you think you need an increase at this particular point. But then also look outwards, because your preparation should include researching industry standards, which may involve talking to people who are in similar roles at your own company or at a competitor, maybe talking to a recruiter or trawling job boards for some sort of indication. It also means understanding the context of your skills in the broader talent landscape, being able to leverage your unique value proposition in the market. So if you work in a sector with a skill shortage, that can be a strong basis for your negotiation.
All right, let's take a quick pause here at Vita, 20 past 2 o'clock, and then we'll come back on the other side of this and continue this conversation.
What a day. Time for that face mask. Leave the face mask on for 2 minutes. 2 minutes? That's not even enough time for it to work. I can't even send an email in 2 minutes or make a cup of coffee.
With Santam, 2 minutes is enough to insure your car online. When you're fully protected with the expert insurer, you're free to live in the moment, not in the worry. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We're having the money conversation, how to face your fears and land the compensation that you deserve, or perhaps that promotion that you've so rightfully and diligently worked towards with Africa MD at Jackhammer Global. And they are Africa's largest executive search firm. Advait Naidu joins us on the line. And you say that it, part of the sort of the armor that one must have, evidence that how you've contributed and what you've contributed to the organization, as well as researching perhaps industry standards and just having those comparative figures on hand. Some folks might go, that speaks to maybe situations where you can yourself, be in a position to outline that evidence. And then there are some organizations where you would rely on that data from the organization to supply you. So what kind of evidence should we be gathering here? What should people be thinking about when we talk the kind of evidence that will help advance this conversation?
So I mean, I'm going to get to that in a second. I do also just want to raise a point, slightly tangential point about, we say it is on the responsibility of the candidate or the individual to do that research, and it absolutely is. And we do assume that our companies aren't taking advantage of us and they are paying us the right compensation. But there are reasons why employees may be on a current salary that isn't entirely appropriate. If they've only been receiving inflation-linked increases or raises have been put on hold due to company performance in the past, or someone may have been subject to inequality based on race or gender bias. So these are bits of information that should be collected, as part of your justification for why you think you deserve an increase now. A holistic picture of how your pay has been impacted in the past. But equally, the preparation point is also about a company's responsibilities. I know it's a very unusual situation to contemplate, and most companies have a long way before reaching this, but Netflix has a policy to pay employees something called their personal top of market, which means that they pay the most that people can receive within their field, and they're willing to adjust that as soon as the market changes without waiting for a specific financial or payment cycle to come on. And so there is a big psychological issue at play in most other organizations where the company is in the position of power, and people feel that they don't have the agency or the bargaining chips. And I understand that executives feel that they might be shooting in the dark, where they don't know what the market is. So I think, organizations need to be a little bit more transparent. But on that point about what a person should collect, it's the holistic picture of how their pay has changed over the history with their company, maybe linkage to, when I got my MBA or when I completed this qualification, I didn't get it increased, therefore I'm motivating for it now. But also look externally, look at what other companies are paying, talk to recruiters, see if there are job boards that can provide you with that necessary information. And don't just look at one single source of information. There are multiple data inputs that you can get.
Yeah. When we talk around finding a mutually beneficial solution, for me that implies that everybody gets a little bit of something that they're asking. In a real world conversation, the likelihood of both of us walking away satisfied after these conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I think it may be the case that your company legitimately cannot give you an increase at the moment. And this is especially true in larger corporations where there are structural constraints in place. They may not be able to offer an increase due to financial constraints or the need for parity across the organization. And so a mutually beneficial situation could be something like saying, well, don't give me an across-the-board increase. How about a performance-related bonus right now? Or is there anything in the budget, is there discretionary budget available that is not linked to an increased budget where I could ask for a contribution to further studies? Is there a project-based incentive that I could negotiate? Could I alternatively get more flexible working conditions? And that is the type of mutually beneficial situation where I think it's a cautionary piece of advice for individuals not to make these make or break conversations. And as an individual, you should think about what your walk away point is. And for companies also to think what is possible, because they know these conversations are coming, and to plan strategically around those.
You see, now you've just given us the golden nugget when you've just said that, in part, one should not have the sort of you should have some negotiables and know where your walkaway point is. But I love the sort of looking at it from a perspective of give and take. We're there to negotiate, and so you walk in already with some kind of alternatives and flexibility to the conversation, but there must be also a boundary as to this is how far you're willing to give, or this is how much you're willing to accept if the conversation still does not kind of lean itself towards trying to meet you halfway.
Exactly. And I think, while an individual may decide to leave an organization if a request for an increase can't be met or can't be met to the extent that they want, there's never a reason to turn it into a charged, volatile situation and become disengaged, because then you'll end up leaving on very bad terms. And for companies, they also need to take the pragmatic approach and calculate the cost of a salary increase versus the cost of replacing an employee who decides to leave. No one wants to feel bullied into something or to spending more, but there's really always a balance to be struck, and the more you think about what those boundaries are and the more creative solutions you can offer, the better off everyone is going to feel. A manager doesn't want to turn down a request for a salary increase because they know what the psychological impact is going to be. So if you go in with some creative solutions and you don't leave it to the company to come up with all the options, then, it's showing that you're invested in this company and you're invested in your development there, but there is a point where they can contribute and help you get more engaged.
Absolutely. So when's the best time to start having these conversations? Is there a best time to set up that appointment?
I don't think there's ever a best time, and there's probably always the worst time from the perspective of companies. Look, most companies have traditional cycles that they need to follow, and that's probably the best time to be thinking about it. Maybe if you know your increase is coming in April, start motivating for it in February when the budgets are being allocated. I think once an increase has already been assigned, that's almost like an anchoring point, and it's difficult to flex around that. So the key is to be proactive and anticipate that there is something coming and to justify what you're going to need and when you're going to need it. I think also expecting it to come, 5 days after you've requested it is unrealistic. You should really give your company some wiggle room and some time to marinate over it before they come back with a response.
Yeah, I definitely think you've given us lots of great advice there for those listening as we gear up for 2025 and those negotiations coming up. Edwata Naidu, thank you so much for the time, and she's the Africa MD at Jack Hammer Global. It's 2:30. Ondela is standing by, and then of course, on the other side of 2:30, we're going to get into a Kids Corner, and then we're going to come back and wrap up the final portion of the show.
Thank you, Bridget. News headlines. Water and Sanitation Minister Pemi Majodina has announced that Johannesburg Water will be throttling water in the city of Johannesburg from the 14th of November until the water system has fully recovered. Electricity Minister Hosianjura Mahupa and the Joburg Mayor Dada Morero say they have appointed a mediator to help resolve the city's electricity debt to Eskom, and the opposition in Mozambique has called on SADC to intervene and deal with the volatile situation. They have rejected the results of the 9th October election, saying they were not free and fair. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM. This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hi everyone, I go by the name of Anneli. One important lesson I've learned is to stay strong and keep going even when things get tough. Setbacks and failures will happen, but how will we react to them matters most. I've found that every obstacle helps us grow and learn. By facing challenges head on and persisting through hard times, we become stronger and more wiser. This lesson has taught me to approach life with a positive attitude, see failures as challenge to improve, and stay focused on my goals no matter what. This lesson has greatly impacted my life, and I continue to rely on it when faced with new challenges. Thank you.
My name is Ashley Kavamba. There are some things that I have learned that I really find useful and could be helpful to other children. I have learned that we should never talk to strangers. Don't take anything from people you do not know or share personal information with people. My parents told me to never do these things. I feel like it's okay to share knowledge with each other because sometimes a child will fear to ask or understand some things from their parents, but will be comfortable to ask for help or understand things better with the help of their
I'm
friends.
Shvika Talib. One thing I've learned that is pretty useful from a young age is that we should learn to save money. Saving money can help us and benefit us in the future when we're older. It can also help us financially. My mom taught me to be financially savvy. If I wanted anything, I should wait patiently if we couldn't afford it, and to save up my pocket money and respect the value of my investments. Also, that wants and needs are two completely different things. Like if I want some new shoes, but we need groceries for the week, the groceries are more important, so we get the groceries. The advice that I can give is to at least save 10 Rand every week. From there, your savings will grow. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. Bye.
Hi everyone. My name is Trevolenko Simalapani, learning on sharing knowledge. One useful thing I have learned is how to manage my time efficiently. I found it helpful because I can do my house chores and also do my schoolwork in time. It has helped me balance my stress levels, improve my grades and resting time. My mom taught me the importance of time management. I think sharing knowledge with others is important because it helps others grow and solve problems.
Greetings everyone, I am Avir Kumar and today I want to talk about something that many of us may not always think about but can make a huge difference in our lives. Learning from the mistakes of others. We are at a stage in life where we are discovering who we are, testing boundaries and figuring out what works for us. It's a time of excitement but also a time where mistakes are inevitable. However, one of the most valuable lessons we can learn is not just from our own errors but from the mistakes of others. Many people can ask, why should we care about others' mistakes? First, let's consider how much time and effort we can save. Every mistake carries a lesson, and while making mistakes ourselves helps us grow, learning from someone else's misstep can save us from unnecessary struggles, pain, and setbacks. But when we see the negative impact of a particular choice someone else made, it can give us the courage to make better decisions. Whether it's staying out of trouble with substances, maintaining good relationships, or managing school responsibilities, recognizing where others have gone wrong and using that knowledge as a guide can protect us from going down similar paths. Lastly, learning from others' mistakes is an act of humanity. It requires the awareness that we don't have all the answers and that we can grow by listening to others. Instead of arrogantly thinking that we always get it right, we acknowledge that we can benefit from the experience and wisdom of those who have may come before us. Learning from the mistakes of others is a powerful way to build our own character and avoid unnecessary pain. It teaches us to be more thoughtful, wise, and resilient in the face of challenges.
Hello, my name is Zembe Ramadin. I have learned useful words and behaviors that can help other children. Okay, I learned kindness, joy, and love. I also learned to pray. My teacher taught me kindness, joy, and love. Every day at school, she reads us Bible spirits that talks about joy, love, and kindness. What I would say to other children regarding sharing knowledge with each other is that be kind enough to share whatever good things that you know with other children.
Hello friends and happy Monday. Wishing you all a fantastic new week. Today we're diving into something truly special, the joy of sharing knowledge. Knowledge comes from various places, school, home, or even from friends. It includes facts, ideas, skills, and experiences that help us understand the world around us. When we share knowledge, we're passing on what we know to others so that they can learn too. Just think about it. If no one ever shared their insights, we wouldn't have schools, books, or even games. We will only know what we have discovered on our own. Sharing knowledge makes learning so much more fun. Picture how easier it is to grasp a math problem when a friend explains it in their own way. Or how captivating a science fact becomes when a teacher shares a personal story about it. By exchanging knowledge, we support each other in becoming smarter and making fewer mistakes. This flow of ideas makes learning feel vibrant and personal. When we share what we know, learning transforms from a textbook activity into a part of our daily lives. Sharing truly is caring, and it's rewarding to know you're contributing to someone else's success. Another fantastic benefit of sharing knowledge is that it enhances your own understanding and retention. When we can listen to others' insights, it encourages us to think differently. You might find inspiration from a friend's experience, or your own thoughts could motivate someone else to embark on a new venture. When individuals pool their knowledge, they can achieve incredible things together, such as creating new games, developing projects, or even launching a club. Knowledge is a powerful tool to make the world a better place. By sharing your insights, you contribute to a community where people support one another, learn collectively, and unlock new possibilities. So the next time you discover something interesting, don't hesitate to share it. Whether it's an intriguing fact, a new talent, or a clever solution, you could brighten someone's day.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom. Reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. SAFM commemorates Disability Rights Awareness Month under the theme Celebrating 30 Years of Democracy, Creating a Disability-Inclusive Society for a Better Quality of Life and the Protection of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. SAFM supports and works tirelessly towards equity and equality for those living with disabilities. Empowerment is key. Let us break the barriers and improve the quality of life for those living with disabilities. Our tireless efforts towards a better life for those living with disabilities can only be impactful when we do so together. We do not tolerate any kind of discrimination. Disability Awareness Month 2024. Only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Disability Rights Awareness Month on SAFM. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Alrighty, for our final conversation today, we're actually having a look at the field of radiology. Because on November the 8th, it was Radiology Day, International Day of Radiology, that's observed annually. And of course, it was established to raise awareness about the pivotal role that medical imaging plays in diagnosing and treating a wide range of health conditions. And we've got Dr. Mabichi Makeke joining us, a radiographer and practice manager at Eastern Radiologist. And as I said, Dr. Mabichi, then I'm wondering, Is there a difference between a radiographer and a radiologist? How are you doing this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Ms. Bridget. I'm fine. Both greetings to also the listeners at home.
Thank you for taking the time. Is there a difference between or a distinction between radiographer and radiologist?
There is indeed. So just for correction,
yes.
So I'm Mr. Maviti Makeke, a radiographer, a Mr., right?
Okay.
So now, a radiologist is a medical professional. So a radiologist is a doctor with advanced training in imaging or in diagnostics.
Okay.
So that would then make you now a radiologist, right? I'll explain further as to what you do, but a radiographer is now someone who takes the images. Someone, if you have a patient coming in for medical examination, so you'd have me doing those x-rays or doing those investigations, take a couple of images that we send through to the radiologist to give now a medical report as to on what they see on those particular investigations.
I see.
So that's where the difference comes in. So the radiologist is actually a doctor who is now a specialist specializing in radiology, while a radiographer is just by full name is a diagnostic radiographer. We focus more on the imaging side.
I see. And I know I'm going to bear the brunt of my asking for this distinction because one of my best friends is a doctor radiologist with a fully fledged practice in the Eastern Cape doing amazing things.
Wow.
So I know that when I finish with you, I'm going to look at my phone and the message that I'm going to see is really, really, really.
You have to.
All right. Well, we appreciate the distinction between a radiographer and a radiologist. So typically, in a typical setting, when you get into whatever the room is, the various rooms, I know even MRIs and things of that sort, the operator that would be in that room taking the snapshot with you, typically, that would be you.
That would be me, yes, the radiographer.
Okay. Now, talk to me about the sort of the field of radiology right now, especially that we have this distinction. The field of radiology, and does it encompass it's sort of different dimensions? I've read about diagnostic radiology and interventional radiology. What's the difference there?
So now there's I think there's three main branches into it. So there's diagnostic radiography or radiology, which now focuses on as it says diagnostic. So we focus more now on imaging and seeing what is happening inside a patient's body. So then we're able to produce a medical report as to what's happening. So someone is able to get accurate treatment. So now this is with using multiple ranges of machines inside diagnostic radiography. We have your normal X-rays, you have your ultrasound, your MRI, your CT scans. So now in diagnostic radiography, we use those to now diagnose and see what is happening inside your body without sending you to theater for an operation, so that you can get accurate treatment, right? Advancing further, we have now your intervention radiography.
Yeah.
So now with intervention radiography, in most situations they've already diagnosed you with a problem, or you already have a diagnosis from prior diagnostic imaging, right? So now with intervention radiology, we are using now radiology to try and solve the problem that was picked up during the diagnostic imaging. So if there's a challenge that was found, let me give you an example to say. If for instance you do a CT scan, for example, they found that there's actually a problem with your liver, right? So now, in now intervention, where we do, let's say, a biopsy to really find out the liver that is there, or the challenge or the problem in that liver, what exactly is it? So now that forms part of intervention radiology. Or you hear that someone is went to theater. There was a clot in one of the vessels. We needed to remove that clot. That is through now angiography, which is also a part of of intervention radiology, right? There's also a part there. There's also a part, the third part being treatment or therapeutic radiology now, which is the third branch of radiology, which now focuses on treating.
Okay.
So in most patients with cancer, there's what we call radiation therapy. So radiation therapy, we are using now the radiation that we use to get images. We use the same radiation to send it to a specific part in your body where you have cancer cells, to treat or in a simple way bend the cancer cells so that we eliminate cancer from your body.
I see. Okay.
So now it's quite important for people to understand that there is a multiple divisions into the whole bracket of radiology.
Yeah. So it's not just about the doctors that sit staring at the X-ray images, but there's the interventional part of it is quite different and quite specific, and the treatment part of it quite different and quite specific.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Oh, this why it explains why my friend always takes issue when I call him a glorified photographer. Let's talk about the qualification process for the field of radiology, and considering the three different elements, four if you think about what you do as well as a radiographer. Talk to me about the qualification criteria then for someone who has an interest in this. What does one need to meet in order to be able to study radiology or pursue it as a career?
So now, for someone with interest at home to be a radiographer, the most interesting or most important, actually, the most important thing would be to ensure that when you choose streams, you ensure that your pure mathematics is there, your physical sciences is there, as well as your life sciences. Those are the main three that they look at, and then the grading on those has to be of the highest, as high as you can achieve, so that you don't find yourself in situations where you are put in waiting lists. So we always encourage that. For all individuals seeking to pursue a career in radiology or radiography, to ensure that you have those three, and always make sure that those three you try and get good grades in. Then from there you apply it. I think various institutions have the course. It's now progressed to 4 years.
Yeah.
Including with honors qualification. So it's 4 years now with honors, but those are the three main subjects for ensuring that you are able to pursue a radiography career. So now, for a radiologist, as I've said, now you need to first go into medicine. So after medicine, and once you've qualified as a medical doctor, you further pursue to now specialize in radiology.
Okay.
Which is now an extra qualification. Then you are now a radiologist, which is a specialist in radiology.
Okay, so that sort of that part of it would be more medically inclined, obviously, if you are looking to be a radiologist, because essentially you are a specialist doctor. You are a doctor by qualification, and you are a specialist, as Dr. Odwa Shinxane is a doctor and a radiologist. And then as a radiographer, you don't necessarily have to do a medical degree.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Okay, very, very interesting indeed. And then talk to us about maybe some of the unique challenges of this particular sector, especially from your perspective as a radiographer. The sort of unique challenges and obstacles that one finds themselves either when entering in the profession or already in the profession, particularly if the ambition is for you to ultimately succeed at the highest levels. And what would that be for a radiographer?
So now, the challenges that are there that are currently faced is, I think, in radiology is that we don't hear more about it. So now we don't hear a lot about it. So for most people, when you start talking of radiography or radiology, people assume it's related to radio. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions that are there. There's not enough information about it. So even as you enter it, you enter in a world where you need to constantly be in educating individuals or educating the public that there's what we call radiology and what we do, and the importance of what we do, especially now with various illnesses and diseases where we play a very crucial role in diagnosing. So now, the biggest achievement in radiography comes when you have successfully diagnosed or successfully imaged an individual or a patient.
Yeah.
So now, we strive for every patient who walks into an institution not feeling well to ensure that they get the most accurate or most necessary imaging that needs to be there, or investigations. Almost all institutions, including ours at Eastern Radiologists, where we have from the most basic to the most superior units or machines. So now we encourage constantly for the public to know about this, so that when you walk into an institution and you're treated, it must be part of your tick box to make sure that you also pass through by radiology for investigations to be done. I think most of us, when you go to a doctor, you have the box to, okay, I need to see the doctor, I need to get medication, so you tick a box for pharmacy, but we hardly ever tick that box for investigation. So people need to remember that now we are exercising what's called nowadays evidence-based medicine. So for my side, I am happy and I go to bed happier when most of the public starts knowing about radiology. When we are constantly also evolving with the technology, with the highest means of imaging, highest technology that we have, that is there and that is accessible, and we offer those services to the public, then I can't complain.
Yeah. Where is sort of the height of success for a radiographer? So what are young kids, if they are charting the steps of their career, what is the ceiling there for a radiographer?
So now there's multiple means around it. So now you qualify as a radiographer, right? Now there's other streams around it. There's sonography, there's ultrasonography, there's a nuclear medicine radiography, a radiation therapy radiographer. So there's multiple streams around it where one can branch into, right? So now in all of those streams, there's multiple units that you can learn and perfect. So now it would be, as you are into radiography, it's gonna go to personal preference as to which department would you want to strive in.
I see.
Right? So if I'm gonna choose diagnostics, then I'm going to make sure that all units which go from your general x-rays to your MRI scans, I'm going to make sure that I'm a top-tier radiographer in those departments, so that when I meet someone outside, I'm able to full extent educate on those, and then when they come to our practice, I'm able to fully execute and make sure a patient is assisted and there's a diagnosis. So now it's going to go to personal preference that once you are in the specialty, there's multiple branches for one to branch into and to push a career into. So now you're not limited to one stream. So once you are there, you are able to choose multiple streams. So now it's going to depend as to per individual what exactly do you want to achieve. But the sky is the limit, basically.
Understood. We appreciate the time with you, Mabichi Makeke. Thank you so much for walking us through the world of radiology. And he's a radiographer and, of course, the practice manager at, at Eastern Radiologists. Maybe this is a good time for us to take a break.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
we are wrapping up the show. It's literally the final moments of the show, and Ashraf Gada is standing by to take over from 3 until 6 o'clock. There's much to discuss, I'm pretty sure, between the water crises that we're currently facing and the good update on that. That briefing just wrapped up, and of course all the developments that happened between yesterday and today in the world of politics. For now, though, we're going to quickly, I want to hear some of your sentiments around our first conversation that we were having, looking into student debt, right? And probably some of the challenges and factors that we must consider when we have that conversation around these outstanding balances that are really just creating a barrier for young kids and giving them limited access to employable options out there. So let's go to WhatsApp and see what was on your mind.
Good afternoon, Sister Bridget and SAFM listeners. This is Mlungi Sihlala from eThekwini. To comment, your guest is right regarding education, institutions and labor markets. The system is disjointed and it's not functional at all. The labor markets, and you see, if that can work out fine, we will know what is required from an institutional education point of view to integrate them to the labor markets. We will know if the system correlates and works cohesively or coherently. The country will be beautiful, but now children are being trained and they study, but the market doesn't have capacity to absorb them. It is bad. I thank you.
Afternoon, Bridget and Dumisani. This is Magdalene from Bloem. This thing of the postgraduate being exposed to unemployment and debts on their heads because of their study loans, NSFAS and whatever, and that prohibit them to can explore in their lives and subject them to poverty or criminal activities. We never experienced such things during apartheid because scholars were placed according to their gifts and talents and were taken twice in a week for apprenticeship, so that when a person reached grade 12, even grade 10, could be employable. Magdalene from Bloem, thank you.
Yes, Mom Magdalene, thank you so much for sharing that reflection with us. That is how we wrap it up today. We thank you so much for choosing to be with us. Ashraf is standing by 3 till 6 on the National Pulse. From myself and my team, we'll see you tomorrow, inshallah, God willing.
Thank you, Bridget. Top stories at 3. Johannesburg Water to implement water restrictions, and SADC called on to intervene in the situation in Mozambique. For SAFM News, I am Ondalambana, and a very good afternoon. Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina has announced that Johannesburg Water will be throttling water in the city of Johannesburg from the 14th of November until the water system has fully recovered. This as the department attempts to address the water supply challenges faced in the province. The minister made the announcement at a media briefing earlier today.
Johannesburg Water presented the measure which is implementable, which include, amongst others, throttling of water supply between 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. This is in line with our restriction on level 1. To enable the reservoirs to level to recover overnight. If they don't do that, the reservoirs might not be able to fill up. So we're doing that overnight.
Electricity Minister Hosiantu Ramakgopa and the Johannesburg Mayor Tata Morero say they have appointed a mediator to help resolve the city's electricity debt to Eskom. This follows a meeting held between the City of Johannesburg Power Utility, City Power, Eskom, and the Minister of Electricity this morning. The meeting comes after Eskom announced that they will implement power supply disruption in the city due to city power being 4.9 billion rand in arrears. The meeting has resolved to acquire independent intervention and will have 14 days to report back. Ramokgopa says they expect to receive feedback from the technical expert about the 25th of this month.
We have accepted that technically we can get that confirmation in the next 14 days. So what will happen is that on the 25th of November, the technical expert will come back to myself, the executive mayor, and both teams from ESCOM and City Power to say to us that this is the true facts of the situation. And on the basis of what the technical expert will have determined.
The Mintech CEO, Dr. Molefe Motoku, says the entity will soon release its study into the country's mining sector. Mintech has been working on a critical mineral strategy and a study into 11 minerals in the country on exploration and benefitation. Speaking at the company's 90-year celebration event, Motoku says he's confident that study will receive the green light from Cabinet for its rollout as it is critical for the country's future in minerals. Critical mineral strategies aimed to position South Africa as a leading producer of minerals that support the green economy, Motoku explains.